So there's a misconception that if you're single, you are incomplete, perhaps damaged, salvaged, and you won't be happy until you find your one. And that is not true. That is bullshit. It is a message that has been fed to us by media and advertising. The truth is, when you're single, you have the richest soil for growth. That's why I created this podcast. And unlike other podcasts, this one is host-driven, not guest-driven. That means I will be rotating health and wellness experts 3 times a week to give you the giant box of wellness crayons, not just the primary colors, so you can start building a meaningful life. It's time to give singlehood a cape.
Sean and I were talking about how all forms of healing have become more mainstream, and many of them have common threads that run through them. Whether it's trauma healing or recovery, healing from a crisis, grieving after a loss, navigating a divorce, healing from a breakup. They all seem to have common themes and common threads. And we want to chat about some of the core principles of 12 steps. So the 12-step program and how that can apply to most types of healing and really life in general. So we're going to talk through, Sean's going to introduce himself and then talk through some of the steps some of the core principles of 12-step.
Cool. Thanks, Amy. Good to be back with you. 12 steps. So like you said, you and I were just chatting one time and we both agreed that the 12-step framework of recovery work can apply to almost anything. It just seems like you could really take the principles, whether you are in AA where 12 steps started, or NA narcotics, or what are other ones? SAA, like I know about, Sex Addiction Anonymous. So whether it's behavioral or whether it is a substance addiction concern, lots of people going through a lot of different circumstances, but involving addiction or compulsion, really cotton to the 12-step recovery method. And so I think we're also going to, in our conversation, demystify a little bit of it, right? Because people are like, are you guys involved with like UFOs? Do you wear, aluminum foil hats? Is it a secret cult? Are you wearing robes? Is it eyes wide shut? And the answer is no to any of that, all of that rather. So, but really, Amy, should we just go like back? Like,
yeah,
as
but
if
I think
the person listening has like no idea what the fuck 12-step is?
yes, but I think you should introduce yourself first.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Sean Cardinalli, new friend to Amy Brown. Anyway, I'm a sex and love addiction coach, and I came by it honestly, being a recovering sex and love addict myself. The way I got to my sobriety coin of 14 years at this point is through a combination of talk therapy and 12-step recovery. And, some people really swear by 12-step. We'll probably get to that in our conversation. And I don't see how I could have been how I am now. I don't see how I could have attained the sort of contentment and self-work and self-care that I've gotten to without a combination of both. That said, both the talk therapy and the 12-step. That said, 12-step's fucking powerful. And again, that's why we were just rambling, getting to know one another like a while ago. And we're like, holy shit, you can 12-step anything. So that's me. Was that good? Was that enough of a preamble?
Fantastic. I'm Amy, and I work with clients who are navigating many different healing journeys, including breakups and divorce, and helping them navigate the process in a mindful, healthy, respectful way. So my background is mindfulness and meditation. And I also work with alcoholics and sex addicts to help them navigate their relationships in a healthy and mindful way.
Nice. I like the healthy and mindful. We got to talk more about mindfulness sometime. I could be a mindfulness client of yours and do like a coach on coach thing. Anyway, I don't know where that came from, but the very beginning of 12-step, Amy, was 1935. So to a lot of the kids listening right now, eons ago. And 12-step Alcoholics Anonymous is the original 12-step group. There were 2 men who met in Akron, Ohio, Bill W., a New York stockbroker, and Dr. Bob S., an Akron, Ohio surgeon. And through the process of them getting to know each other, and I am going to speed through it, do the Cliff's Notes version. Also, I'm not as well steeped in AA lore and history, but they got together to form this group because at the time in the early 20th century, alcoholism was like, it was highly stigmatized. If you were just called a drunk, it was hopeless. They probably put you in some kind of version of whatever the psychiatry or the mental institutes there, if it was too far off, if you're just blowing off the rails. And so these gentlemen wanted to get together and just form, not normalize alcoholism, but normalize the healing process of alcoholism. Like try to do something that was spiritually laden, supportive, formed like a core group, so that people didn't feel the stigma that was so prevalent back then. And what they came up with was the 12-step method. And so I was hoping that you, Amy, could read the 12 steps. I think you have them somewhere.
I do, yes.
And this is the basis, the OG 12 steps from AA.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to read them. And then, but before that, I just wanted to say that I think when you and I had initially started talking, I shared that my passion for the 12 step came not because I have experienced it myself, but because my grandfather was an alcoholic and he lived he was actually from California, but moved to Edmonton, Canada. And at the time, there were no AA chapters there. And so he and my grandmother brought the first AA chapter to Edmonton, Canada. And so he was, this is, back in the day before we had mobile devices. And so, on their landline at home.
Mobile. I haven't heard that in a while. What do you know about what year? Do you know about what year he started now they call them clubs. Like everyone,
Okay.
AA is so prevalent and so popular as far as recovery, 12-step recovery goes, that they actually have clubhouses now. It's a huge organization with millions of people around the world engaged. You're not members. It's nothing like that. Again, we're trying to demystify it. But do you know about what year it was? I wonder what, 60s?
Yeah, or maybe even before. But yeah, probably the 60s. Yeah.
So it'd be a big deal if you just came trucking up to Canada and was like, I'm going to plant this flag and help all these alcoholics out.
I think it was kind of a big deal. And it was definitely his passion. So he would get called, I think he was everyone's sponsor to begin with. And he would just get called at, mostly all hours of the night and would go out and help and support. And that, when you and I were talking, that I feel like that model is so incredible, that supportive model, because as you were saying, yes, talk therapy, great, one-on-one coaching, fantastic. However, the model of having a group that that you can go to at any time, whenever you need it, a model of a group who have been through it and can really identify with it on a completely different level. Not necessarily someone who studied it in school, but someone who's actually lived through the experience. That
Right.
I feel is so uniquely powerful to the whole 12-step program.
No, you're absolutely right. And I wanted to ask two things. Where's your grandpa from in Cali? Where did he leave?
I don't know.
You don't know. That's okay. That's okay. We won't tell your mom. We won't tell the rest of the family.
Now I'm gonna have to tell her not to listen to this one.
And he's like, hey, Sean,
you
for calling me out.
You just sank me.
Call her right now. I'll just keep. We'll just keep recording. I'll just ramble. You just call your mom real quick. She's gonna kill you.
She's away. She and my aunt, the two people who would know the answer to this, are away. They're traveling together right now. I can't get hold of them.
All right. So you could have had an accent like mine, like "What's up, dudes?" But now instead you say "process" instead of "process" because you're Dyed and wool Canadian. It's all good. Oh, one thing you mentioned, I did want to help folks as we go along. We should try to define as we use the terms again, because we're having to do this recording and share with everybody who's listening as if you've never heard a fucking thing about 12 step. And so when you said sponsor, that's part of the camaraderie. We call it the fellowship in 12 step, and sponsoring is a huge crucial point. And because we're going to keep throwing words like that, I'll just define as we go, if that's okay, or you do the same. And a sponsor is someone in the fellowship in the room. So you go basically to weekly meetings. You can go as many times a week as you want. You go to meetings. They're often in side rooms or offices of churches, sometimes like athletic centers, whatever. Like they're all around your city. You just have no idea, because again, the whole point is to be anonymous, so that no matter what the person is going to attend for, they are staying away from the shame again and the stigma for that very addiction, whatever they're doing. You can imagine, Amy, those of us in S groups, which is what we call sex, not led, focused groups, Sex Addicts Anonymous, Sexual Compulsives Anonymous. There are a whole bunch of them, different styles. It's a little, some people are just downright frightened. Some don't want to lose their jobs. Some are trying to just heal their family. So we want to do it as discreetly as possible, not in secret because we're all gross, nasty people, but because we just want to live our lives, heal this part of our lives, and then get back to our lives healthily. So a sponsor in the 12-step groups is, once you go, you check out a couple meetings, you shop around for however many you want, or however long you want. We often say go to like 6 meetings at least, see if it's your vibe. And again, I'm not a militant about it, right? I'm not like evangelical about 12-step. I mean, I love it and it worked for me, but I never, ever, Amy, say everyone should do it. Everyone should do whatever helps them get through their trauma, addiction, compulsion, whatever it is. But anyway, back to the fucking thing I was trying to find was sponsor. Sponsor is someone in the group who has more, who has a good, solid hold on their recovery, usually over 1 or 2 years of sobriety in whatever it is. And they take you on as they're like a mentor to a sponsee. So, I have 2 sponsees myself. I talk to one once a week, and I talk to the other one almost every fucking day. So they check in.
Yeah, and you can reach out at any point, right? Like this is before you act out or whatever, go into the behavior, you reach out.
Absolutely. And that's part of the whole ethos of support and camaraderie and fellowship that you front loaded this conversation with. These guys can call me any fucking time. I get back as soon as I can. I avail myself, 24/7. It's not like I'm going to get up in the middle of the night and just check my phone, but really I get back to my guys as readily as I can. And you check in when, like you said, you're triggered, feel like you're going to act out, feel like you're going to fall off the fucking wagon, which means lose your sobriety, however that's defined. And you also call and celebrate. And you celebrate anniversaries, by the way. So we keep track of our sobriety. So if I'm an alcoholic, my sobriety, the first day you walk in, you get a white chip, 24-hour chip. And I don't know what to say. It's a chip. It's like when you go to the casino and you get the little, fucking chips when you're playing roulette or whatever. And then you have 1 month, 2 months. You go month by month. Then you get something like 18. You get a year chip, and that's a big fucking deal. And that's usually like some places have a gold coin. So you keep track of your sobriety, and it's a way of just letting yourself know that it is one day at a time. And that's a crucial 12-step sort of, again, part of the ethos. We just try to stay sober for that day. And you'd probably really appreciate that, Amy. And I know you do, actually, because that just keeps you right here, right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. And there's, one step at a time or one day at a time. There's actually a book about Buddhism, mindfulness, and recovery called One Breath at a Time. And it's by a meditation teacher and 12-step practitioner. And it really, one day at a time, one breath at a time, those are great mantras for life, and I think that's part of the message that I hope that people take away from this episode is just, as all of healing, whatever you're healing, all of these threads that are woven through, religion, whatever you think of religion, and spirituality and healing and recovery, and they're all efforts to get us back to knowing the truth about ourselves, to being present in this moment, to moving out of our ego, to moving into remembering that we're all connected, we're all living here together on this earth, and to try to, I think, bring us back to moving from a place of grounded love, as opposed to living in our ego, living in our mind, existing in worrying about the future, or ruminating over the past, carrying the shame and the blame and the guilt from the past, or just stressing about the future, but instead being in this right now, right here, in this moment. You're okay. And you're just going to take one breath, and then you're going to take another breath. You're going to take one step and then another step, or one day and then another day. And if you can manage that, then it helps, as you're saying, keep you much more now, much more present, much more grounded, mindful. And sometimes one day is all you can do, and that's okay. But if you can just focus on the one day, then yeah.
Sometimes you have what I call I'm going to jokingly call the Malcolm X days, where it's like, by any fucking means necessary, I'm going to try to stay sober. But that's okay. We sometimes also kind of tongue in cheek say, if you're white knuckling, which means you're hanging on to your sobriety for dear fucking life, like it's just a day where we have a thing called HALT: hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Those are like the basic triggers, right? So if you're just having a fucking halt day where nothing's going right, you're exhausted, you're pissed off, you know, your boss or whatever, family tensions, maybe tensions also that come up as a result of the addiction. Even if you're in recovery, shit is still coming up left and right. And because you're in 12-step and you're trying to abstain from the act out, taking whatever the poison was, doing whatever the unhealthy thing is, you are just trying to not act out and get as much support as you can. And like you say, be in that moment, knowing that tomorrow will be, tomorrow when it comes. Right now I'm triggered. I need to call my sponsor, say the serenity prayer. And I know you were going to go over the serenity prayer, I think, at some point with this share. And then we should actually, before it gets too late into this, go over the 12 steps, just read them out. Do you want to do the prayer and then the steps?
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
cool. And the prayer is, the serenity prayer, a lot of people have heard of it and they don't even really realize that it was popularized by 12-step. But I talk to my clients about it because it's something that is such a brilliant mantra for living day to day. And I'm going to start, the first word is God, but just to be clear, even in 12-step, they address it's whatever God, source, universe, higher power, whatever you refer to, whatever God you are comfortable with. It's not necessarily the Roman Catholic God.
Not at all. Not at all. And again, that's why, that's why at the outset, I was like, there are a lot of, let's try to demystify or, destigmatize some of these things as we talk about it. It's not, 12-step is not a Christian anything. It's a spiritual practice to help you with very temporal and physical and spiritual ailments, right? Yeah. I mean, even whether it's substance abuse, even though there is a physical thing, a toxin, a drug, an alcohol that's like fucking with your life, and making it impossible to live healthily. The framework, and when you get to the 12 steps, everyone will hear it's a spiritual journey. It's how do I live my life more spiritually led, more healthily, more aware, again, more in the present. So the oldest text, of course, like what I say was 1935. I think I said that the original, 35 in Akron, Ohio, that's when it was formed. So those guys probably were, Protestants or Catholics or whatever they were, old white guys walking around Ohio. And so they said God. But today, most of our groups, a lot of the groups say higher power, and it's whatever you want it. And by the way, total little side note, I have plenty of friends, plenty of brothers and sisters in recovery who are agnostic or atheistic altogether, but you find a higher power in the group and the experience and the recovery and the fellowship. So it is not, definitely want to make that clear, not a Christian cult or posse.
Yeah. Okay, serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think it's such a beautiful, beautiful mantra for life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to go through.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep stepping on you tonight. You know, it's because I'm taking caffeine. We started recording. I didn't have the caffeine in me, and now it's kicking in. I apologize. Again, to clarify, we start almost every meeting and end almost every meeting with that prayer.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
beautiful.
That's why.
Okay, so Sean, I'm going to read the steps, but if there's any comments, if you want to comment on any of them, please just jump in.
I think I'll let you go through, and then maybe we'll jump back and see if there's some that stand out. I know 2 or 3 that I can definitely share a little bit on.
Yeah. No, jump in for sure. Okay. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. This is obviously from AA. Does it change if you're in something else, a substance?
Yeah. So mine is like, we admitted we were powerless over sexual addiction, that our lives have become unmanageable. It's fill in the blank of whatever, instead of alcohol,
whatever
drugs,
trauma it
whatever
is.
it is. Yeah. Codependence, there's CODA, CODA is a 12-step for codependence. So yeah.
Okay. Number 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So God, source, universe, higher power, whatever power resonates with you.
We don't even say him anymore. We just, God as we understood God. We just leave it. We're trying to take out all of the old school.
Yeah,
stuff,
I'm going with the originals. This was etched in a.
Yes. You're right. Was it a tablet? Was it 2 tablets?
No,
I'm kidding.
Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, source, to ourselves and to other human beings the exact nature of our wrongs. And actually, jump in if there's other adjustments or updates.
Yeah, no, they're almost entirely exactly the same. And again, I'll go back through and clarify once we get to 12.
Okay. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood, praying only for knowledge of the universe's will for us and the power to carry that out. I'm trying to update it as I'm going here. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics, whatever
other
trauma.
Alcoholics, other sex addicts, other whatever. Yep.
And to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Yeah, I think mine. I'll try to find my book. There is something different about that last one, in all our affairs. That changes a little bit. I think just to update the language, because again, that sounds so like 1930s. But like 99% of that is exactly the same. I think the point of view now in the 21st century is you may hear some strong wording in here: moral inventory, making amends, personal inventory, character defects. We've changed a little of that language, maybe not when we're reading the 12 steps themselves, but in the practice of them. So the point when you get in is, and this is really critical, and this is why we're talking about the 12 steps, 12-step recovery is not a process of going to meetings. Meetings are crucial. The fellowship is crucial. we get so much juice. We call it taking the medicine. And I think the original alcoholics maybe even coined that phrase, when we get together and share and hear each other's stories. And I'll demystify that right now. You go to a meeting, everybody introduces themselves, however they identify. Some people don't even say it, like in my groups. I'm a sex addict, recovering. No. Some people just have their own euphemism or phrase or turn of phrase. You go over the serenity prayer, make announcements, because we have conventions, we have retreats, we have calendar events that we need to talk about. And then you usually do a reading from a source book. So the original big book is what they call it. The AA book has the 12 steps and all of these principles and how to basically work through the 12 steps. So it just expands on the original 12, and that's half of the book. The second half of the book is a bunch of shares that have been culled over the years. And I remembered, Amy, I know you were thinking of maybe ending this session with a meditation. I also want to read one of the most crucial shares from the AA book that everyone reads now and really soaks in. So that's what this big book is divided in. Sort of the practice and about the fellowship and about sponsoring and all the things you can do that become the tools you use for recovery. That's the first half. Then the second half is, again, shares, like parables, little memoir slices of people's lives who've been through the process and are now basically singing the praises of the recovery process. So number one is crucial. We admitted we were powerless. 12-step recovery is a process of surrendering, and something that I do, Amy, with my clients, whether in group or individual, if they're having a day, like I was saying, if they're doing a white knuckling day, I like to say you might be forgetting to surrender. So I make them, you can do it right now if you want. I make them ball up their fist and squeeze. And I'm like, do that for like 15 seconds. We won't do the full 15 here because I know if we keep rambling, we're going to run out of time. But keep squeezing your hand. Keep going. Make it as tight as you can. Keep doing it. Now let it go. What's the experience of that, right? First, it's taut. It's painful. It gets tired. It might get veiny and red or sore. And then the releasing of the hand.
So much release. Yeah.
That's the surrender, right? So it's not, we don't use words like will, right? It's not our best thinking and our will and our ego is what got us in the rooms, right? Again, if we have a spiritual defect of some kind, and again, that's a word that I'll talk about how we're not using it as much anymore. If we have a spiritual issue, right, of some kind, then we're going to use a spiritual way to undo the issue, to recover. So we never talk about like, I'm going to just beat the shit out of this. Like, nope, you're going to surrender. You're going to let it go, right? It's bothering me. It's bothering me. It's bothering me. What are the things that I can do? There are 5 ways, 6 ways to act out the shit that got me in the rooms. What can I do? What are the millions of ways now that are availed me through the fellowship and through my experience and learning more tools and having a different attitude and behaviorism and spiritual outlook? What are any of those things that I could do to stop that fist from balling up, right? What can I do to just open up, right? Exhale, let it go. It's not egoic. It's the opposite of that. So
I love this. These are all like, this is the language of meditation and mindfulness. This is all the same themes, which is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one. I do want to talk about that. Like some of the, no knock against the guys in the 30s, but some of this language I don't love. So I'd like you to,
sure. Like which one?
Update
Name
us.
one.
Well, I didn't like the shortcomings. That doesn't seem very.
Which one is that in? I'm trying to find out where that is. 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Defects of character and shortcomings. So those are
defects in
the
character.
ones that
I don't like that.
Those are the ones that people chafe against, right? And so we'll go 6 and 7, then I'll come back to 3. Because one thing when you and I were talking about putting this podcast together, the order of the steps is crucial. I have literally denied sponsoring someone because a guy who was very troubled years and years ago. I was still kind of early in the program, but I had like 2 or 3 years of sobriety already under my belt. And a guy came to me and he was like, it's not working out with my other sponsor. So I'd like to continue with you. I was on, 1, 2, 3. I kind of want to, can we do 6 and 7? Might come back to 4. I was like, nope. It's like, no, so again, I'm going to reiterate before I say what I'm about to say. I'm going to reiterate again. This is not a Christian thing. This is not God, God, Jehovah, Judeo-Christian tradition. That said, these motherfuckers were divinely or universally or source inspired. Like, the shit works. And again, it doesn't work for everybody. I tell you, I'm not a militant about it. It doesn't work for plenty of people. And the problem is because all the groups stick so closely, no matter what they're going to the rooms for, adheres so critically to that anonymous aspect. We don't really we have anecdotal evidence of its efficacy. We have a good idea, but really we don't know shit. It's not like what Brene Brown does, right? Where she has been in the social work and in the field and getting recordings of people's, suffering and vulnerability and shame for years and documenting it. There's none of that for this, even though it's been around for almost 100 years.
Yeah.
So, so to the language, instead of defects of character, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, go for 3. It's okay. Stay in the same
Stay
order.
in the zone.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1, 2, and 3 are like the introduction to the whole process. I can't is 1. Higher power can is 2. Let higher power is 3. So admitted we're powerless. My lives have become manageable. That's what everyone asks me, Amy, when they're like, well, how do I define, am I an addict? I never tell a client, yes, you are. No, you're not. I've had a couple of people ask me so directly that I was like, what you're experiencing and what you are what your behaviors are tending toward. Yeah, that's you're checking off a lot of boxes. I'll put it that way. That said, everyone has to define their own sense of it. And I always go back to powerlessness and unmanageability. You see my IG, I have a bunch of different shares. I'm like, what is it? What is it? Are you powerless? Can you not stop doing what is deleterious, what is unhealthy, what could kill you, if not actually physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually? And has your life become unmanageable? That's the wake in the wake of the powerlessness, right? The behind the boat of the powerlessness is this wake of unmanageability. Now I've lost my job. Now I've hurt my kids. Now I've hurt myself. Now I have legal ramifications for what's happened. That's the unmanageability. That's super basic, which is why I often tell people a lot of the work that I do as a coach is steeped in this shit. Came to believe, again, many people are agnostic or atheistic. It doesn't have to be God, God. Came to believe there's a power. It's just, again, not egoic. And maybe you can speak to this with your mindfulness work. It's just getting out of myself. I call my brain the ocean between my ears. There's fucking so much going on there, especially if you're compulsive or addicted, or, you have trauma, or you're abuse reactive, whatever your fucking childhood or your early history has brought up. If you can surrender that, like just get out of the egoic stuff, get out of your body even, and just go to the spirit and just surrender that something bigger than me, because the addiction itself feels huge. It feels all encompassing. We're basically, sorry to use the analogy after saying no Christian stuff, but you're basically praying at the altar of the addiction, right? So it's huge in your ego's head. And it starts to destroy you, and it starts to destroy your body, mind, and spirit. Yeah. So you have to surrender that. What is bigger than that? This fellowship is bigger. The universe is bigger. I had a friend who was really struggling very early on, and I said, the ocean itself. We were in California at a convention for SAA, and I was like, go into the ocean, going up to your ankles, and it's just a little like, okay, you feel it. It just tickles go up to your knees. I can feel the movement now. Go up to your waist, go up to your chest. Now your feet aren't touching. Now the ocean is swaying your body. You could swim back, yeah, but you're not fully in control anymore. It's moving you. That's a higher fucking power. The forest is a power. Climbing a mountain is a higher power. Nature, Gaia, anything bigger than you. That's the concept. So that's where we also get away from the God version. It's just anything bigger than you, right?
Love it.
And again, a lot of the atheists are like, the fellowship is all these men and women who have helped me all these years and are telling their amazing stories and being this vulnerable. You are my higher power. So,
and that's the beauty of it, is when you're feeling like you just aren't big enough. to manage it, then you have someone to fall into. And I feel
Right.
like that is part of the beauty of the whole program, is just this support network. And whatever it is that you're healing from, whether whether it's recovery or whether you're going through whatever crisis, because as we talked about, there's these common threads in healing, whether it's grieving from a loss, going through a divorce, health issue, whatever it is, to know that you can turn to other people who are going to unconditionally support you that's a super strength. That's everything, right? And some days that's everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And it gets you off the ledge, right? Gets you to back up, get you off the precipice of like, oh, fuck, I'm about to like harm myself again. So, yes. So what's next? Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of a higher power, as we understood. So that's 3 and 10, and I'll get to 10 in a minute. Those are my 2 favorites, because 3 is putting your recovery in practice, and not sobriety. And we'll define the difference between the 2 in a second. Putting your recovery in practice at any time, place, or day. Again, if I'm feeling troubled, if I'm feeling triggered, you could probably hear that big ass truck going by. I just turn to step 3. That's what we do over and over and over again. Something's bothering me. And that's the acceptance is the answer text that I'll read before we finish. That's so crucial. Something's bothering me. What do? Let it go. If I sit there and I ball up again, if my spirit, my body tightens up, tenses up like that fist exercise we did, it's just going to keep doing that. It loves that. It wants you to engage your ego. It wants you to get pissed off. It wants you to think that, beat your chest like a gorilla and like, I'm fucking bigger than you. You're not. This shit almost killed you and destroyed your family and your work and your livelihood. So let it go. And people could be like, fuck you, Sean. That sounds it's so zen and so easy. But you can talk about mindfulness. I mean, really, instead of engaging something like with a fucking jackhammer, with brute strength, you fucking breathe it out. And then you call like 8 friends or however many friends and fellowship you need. I walk out in the streets right outside my apartment complex, and it's a lovely little neighborhood across the street. And if I'm that tense, I can just look at the trees as I walk my dog. And that's all a process of surrendering.
Yep. And co-regulating or regulating your nervous system, or, with your dog, co-regulating your nervous system, being in nature, it's all of the principles of healing, meditation, mindfulness. It's brilliant. That's awesome.
And you made a note too about Buddhism, and my ex and my kids practice Buddhism. I'm still a cafeteria Catholic. I just pick and choose what I want. There's a lot I don't want of it, but I still like the ritual and stuff. And but the Buddhism, that the difference between pain versus struggle, like we all have pain, but we don't all have to struggle. If we can let it go, same fucking thing. Let it go. The longer I hold on to it, like that fist, that's that huge principle. That's what Pima talks about all the fucking time. Like if you just let it go, if you find a way to not sit there and look at it and perseverate on it and stare into it, but just tell it, it's okay. I'm not going to let you bother me. I'm going to do my best to pivot away and get help in a different way. Very much like Buddhism.
It absolutely is. I remember one of my favorite lessons from one of my Buddhist mentors. He said, I was trying to go at something and be like attacking something, and he said, don't do it with so much force. Be like a piece of tissue paper, and then if the thing comes, and if you're trying to punch a piece of tissue paper, you cannot, right? Like it's gonna just fly up, and then it's gonna just fly back down. And so he's like, just be like the tissue, and then you're flexible, but you stay whole because you can't be punched. He explained it better than I am.
No, I totally get it.
But
no, I totally
sometimes you have to be soft to be strong, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Right. Strength and vulnerability. We say that shit
Mm.
all the time. I use that with my clients all the time. Like if you become more vulnerable and more intimate and more open, yeah, and accessing all this self-care and self sort of introspection, you're becoming stronger, not weaker, right? And we're acculturated the opposite anyway, men and women alike, especially in America. Canada, you guys seem a lot nicer, but I'm just saying. But it's really everybody.
It's everybody. We follow you guys. I feel like, and maybe it's just the world that you and I exist in, but I feel like it is making we're making inroads towards becoming better at self-care and self-reflection and healing. I feel like this kind of stuff is getting more mainstream, but that could just be the algorithms that I happen to be on right now. I don't know.
Those are the people that are popping up in your stream or thread. No, I think so too. And I hope that this kind of work, 12-step and all the stuff that we do in whatever framework, shadow work is so big and everyone's talking about now. I got to bone up on that more. Attachment styles, all of this stuff. If it's for your betterment, who gives a fuck? Like what you call it or where it comes from, or there's a couple of old white guys in Akron, Ohio, 100 years ago, but
they were onto something.
Right, they were onto something. Right. You were talking about the Kleenex or the tissue. I call it sometimes mental judo. So rather than put your shoulder down like it's football and you just crush into somebody, instead you just pivot. Turn away.
Yes.
It's judo. You just let it go right by. Let the energy of that thing coming at you blow right by you. There's the reed analogy. There are all these analogies, right? Reeds are strong, but then they bow, and then when the pressure is gone, they come back, and they, So it's any of those analogies. Yeah.
Love it.
Where were we? Oh, so 1, 2, 3, and 4 are like the intro. 1, 2, 3 are like the intro. That's like, you got your baby steps, and then you get to the fucking gauntlet, Amy. And 4 through 9, Lord, it's the work. That's capital T, capital W. And I've even had group classes, like, what do you mean when you say the work? I'm like, it's the pedal to the metal. It's the rubber hits the road, like whatever fucking analogy. This is you going through the process of undoing or surrendering or forgiving. It should be not be or, and forgiving and surrendering all of the shit that got you in the room in the first place. And at the end, when you get to 10, 11, and 12, it doesn't mean, and I don't need to tell you this, you don't need to tell me that, but it's what we're telling our clients a lot. It's what we tell a lot of people, friends. Like, this process doesn't get you through it and then you're fucking invincible and everything's fine and you're Teflon and it bounces off like Superman or Superwoman. It's you now have the tools to navigate the pain and have it be less of a struggle, whether it's the addiction, whether it's a compulsion. That's why you and I had this conversation in the first place. We're like, God, you can 12-step anything, right? You can just fucking 12-step anything. And I believe that. I believe it. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 is the work. 4 and 5 is, and it's always writerly. So everyone shares the first step, how you got in the room, what happened to get you in the room, what's going on now, and what changed in between those. And we get to know each other very well in that process. 2 and 3, you're usually just working out with your sponsor. And again, that's where the sponsor is crucial. Sponsor takes you through this step by step, and you can do it 12 and, all 12 in 12 weeks, 1 a week. It's kind of a little too fast, or you just take your time. 4 alone I wrote 4. It's like a mini memoir. It took me about a year, off and on between work and meeting my sponsor and talking about it, being stuck on a part, and you are just divulging. It is the unmitigated, unadulterated, unabridged version of all the things. Wow. Right. And so I know that, when we get to the defects of character parts, like, that's ugly language. And it's dated language, but we really are working on those things specifically. So 4, fearless and moral inventory, searching and fearless moral inventory. Everything's out on the table. Every fucking thing. My ego, my rage, my jealousy, my selfishness. The good thing is, and this is probably a newer part in the last 100 years, probably in the last 50 of the history of 12-step, we always counter now the negative inventory, the darker inventory, with a counterbalance. So it's yin yang, not just like getting your ass beat with everything that you loathe, that we know you loathe about yourself, or you wouldn't be in the rooms. So it's then I flip it, and it's like my strengths. Oh, well, in my obstinacy, the flip side of that is also I'm strong-willed, and I can be leader-like, right? I can be decisive, right? In my, rage is not a healthy thing, but I'm also the flip side. I'm also very passionate, and I'm good with my kids, and so we do both now. So 5 is just reading off 4. 6 and 7, again, make a you ask your higher power, can we get rid of these things? Can we do that? You get ready for it. You prep, again, is number 6. And again, we say defects of character because we're literally listing like all the things I said, right? It's tough. It's a lot. It's deep fucking work. I mean, is there an analogy you can think of? I don't know all the modes of psychotherapy or psychoanalysis, or certainly not mindfulness, but I don't know where else. I'm sure you get it other places, but where you do that deep fucking dive, right? Jungian psychotherapy. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, it depends on what the person is working on, but it's a lot of clients come in with their bag of stuff. And as soon as you open the bag or the Pandora's box, as with any of this healing, you take off the first layer, and you may or may not know where that first layer came from. And then you dig a little bit deeper, and there's more layers and more layers and more layers. And no one goes to any of this work at a point in their life when everything's going great. No one does the deep dive. No one's like, oh, I'm gonna just, it always comes when they're already at a point of something isn't working the way they want it to, some type of a crisis. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So and then often you realize that it's not just one aspect of your life, but there's other aspects, or it's not just one trauma, but there's more traumas, or it's, so it's, and really it becomes a life journey. I mean, I think that people, again, in the algorithm that you and I are in, this is a lifestyle. This is something that, whatever healing you're doing, we're always going to be students of healing of some sort. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that reminds me, one of the criticisms that I've received too by folks who, again, really don't know about 12-step, or are curious, or a little, wary, even from one of my best friends, one of my old high school buddies I'm still in touch with when I first got into this. I don't know, it was a couple years in, but it was still kind of new. And he was like, yeah, but you keep identifying as an addict, and you keep going to these meetings, and you repeat it over and over again. And I'm like, well, dude, it's not like a class where I matriculate at the end and get a diploma. This is how I'm going to live the rest of my life. This becomes my life and livelihood. And we have a saying in 12-step, whatever I put before my recovery, I will lose. Because that's the experience we had until we got into the rooms, right? I tried to be, I tried to be an artist. I couldn't do it. I had tried to keep this big ass corporate job. Lost that motherfucker. I wanted to be a family man and a dad or a mom or a partner. And that's gone. Why? Because of the fucking addiction, and because I couldn't stop. So that's what I mean. It's exactly like you're saying. It's a journey. We don't really look for a finish line. It's just, and that goes back again to the one day at a time ethos. All right. Where the fuck were we? 5, 6, 7. Ask for, yeah. So 7, we ask to remove our shortcomings. That's and again, I know you don't like the word, and I get it. You know what shortcomings and character defects are? What we call them now? They're maladaptive behaviorisms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they're survival mechanisms.
Yeah.
So those of us, like
mechanisms.
you were talking about trauma, right?
Yeah.
You were talking about trauma, or I am an abuse survivor. I've experienced plenty of childhood trauma, and we may have even said it in the last time we had a podcast. The security blanket, the things that I use to save my ass and my sanity as a 9-year-old become a barbed wire coil. And that's the addiction. That's the act out. That's whatever is maladaptive and what is now fucking with my life, when earlier on it was saving me from some really bad shit. So, yeah, the language is kind of, but you get the idea. 9. So 8 is tough and 9 are tough. Made a list of all persons we had harmed, became willing to make amends. We list the people. We list exactly what we did and how we were and how we betrayed them. And we include ourselves in 8 and 9, which is crucial. We betrayed ourselves, and we hug ourselves, and we say sorry to that younger person. You had no, you were in this predicament, that predicament, and you went this way, and now we're just going to hug ourselves and make amends to ourselves as well. And so 8 and 9 are really powerful. One thing crucial about 9, making direct amends to people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. We stick very closely to that. I didn't reach out to, like, I'll be honest, like one of my college girlfriends, because I was like, she's happily married. I see her on the internet. I see her on the social media. We're not friends. We're not talking, not for any reason. Just we never got back in touch. We had such a rocky road. I just pivot back to my sponsor or to my higher power, and I do that amends in prayer and meditation. I let it go with my sponsor, and then that's good. And you don't make the amends. Crucial. A lot of newbies, when they're coming through, they're like, I want to get those points. I want to, get better with everybody. Not the fucking point. Point is to make the amends earnestly. I fucked up, regardless of their response. Again, you're not going to go do it to make friends again with your old college girlfriend, high school girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, former lover, drinking buddies if you're an alcoholic. You just make the amends, clear your side of the street up, and you're good.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I completely agree with that. A lot of the work that I do with individuals who are exiting relationships, some of the stuff that they need to work through is not stuff that is going to be helpful if addressed in person with their ex-partner or whatever. So we do it energetically, or they do it with me and whatever, just to energetically clear it, to release it, as you were saying, to let it go. But exactly, it's good if it's going to hurt the person or it's going to upset the person or whatever, the other person, then it's not, then it's kind of selfish to do it in person. So
yeah, it's going more egoic. It's getting back to like a point system, which it has nothing to do with. And I'll be honest, some people don't receive it well. Some people like, I had one friend who I really cared for, and it was a long time, deep into recovery. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and she was kind of like, yeah, cool, whatever, and kind of blew it off. And I was like, oh, I thought it was supposed to be more like revelatory or whatever. And it's like, no, that wasn't the reason. She kind of couldn't care less, right? She was like, okay, thanks. I was like, oh shit. And then there are other people, who are like, yeah, you're really fucking asshole, and thanks for that. And I don't know if we're totally good, and I'm just saying this is kind of half hypothetical or half made up, but there are people who just will chafe and be like, I don't really want to be reminded of all that, but thanks. And then you move on.
Right. You can't be attached to the outcome.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And then 10, 11, and 12, you're out of the gauntlet. And this is like we were just talking about, how it's a journey, there's no finish line. 10 is my favorite. So 3 and 10 are my favorite, because 3, again, I'm triggered. I need to surrender it. Whatever the fucking trigger is, whatever the circumstance, let me go take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever I need, and go release it, or just do a simple, like you said, simple surrender prayer, and I'm good. And I just move on. You can do that any fucking time. You can do any of the steps anytime. 6 and 7 are big. If you're stuck on something, you go back to a defective character, what do you call it? A maladaptive property. Like, oh my God, my stubbornness today, or my rage. Oh my God, Amy, last week I spent a whole day like, let go. This is old shit. So you can go back to any of them at any time. But 3 and 10, you can surrender at any time. That's like the basis of our recovery. And then 10, continue to take a personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admitted it. I do the don't go to bed angry thing. We may not even solve an issue with a partner, with a friend, with a coworker, with ourselves, but try to just, okay, let's put a pin in it. If we can't just totally surrender that right now, and make amends, and we'll continue this tomorrow. Or, you and I are arguing, and, we cool out, go to neutral corners. And then, an hour later, before we leave work or whatever the circumstances are, it's like, I apologize for my part. I'm trying to see whatever the fuck was mine, take responsibility for that. You may still be pissed off or whatever, but I want to make amends. Again, we can put a pin in it or we can work on it right here, but you don't want to hold on to those things, because resentment is such a powerful tool of the addiction of the, acting out, just all that searing, like acidic stuff that just sits there and burns a hole. You want to let that go.
And also that's great for life, for relationships, for connections. Always make amends. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and own your part in the situation. And hey, I did something, maybe it was only 5% my fault, but still, if you are there offering your vulnerability and saying, hey, I'm apologizing. Well, it's going to do a lot to repair, in relationships. Fights or arguments aren't the enemy, as long as you can repair properly.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, sorry, please continue. 12.
No, it's all good. And I was going to say, you can do another 10, you can do a 10-step with your mom and aunt later about not knowing
I'm gonna have to,
where
yeah.
your grandpa came.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And now I have to make an amends for being an asshole for bringing that back up again.
In case they didn't catch it the first time, just to remind them. Thank you, Sean.
Amy's never going to do a podcast with me again. Never going to ask me again. And 11 and 12, again, these speak to the spiritual, really speak to the spiritual aspect of the recovery process. Sought through prayer and meditation. Again, no church, no mosque, no anything, just prayer and meditation. One talking, the other one listening is how we kind of analogize it, right? To improve our contact. That's just staying in touch with the higher power, however that higher power is manifested, whatever we are turning to day in and day out. And we keep, it's like you keep in the recovery. You just stay close to all the principles, all that 1 through 10, that big gauntlet you just went through, 3 through 9, whatever. Stay in that energy, stay in that spirituality. Don't forget where you came from. And again, not in a self-flagellating way, just know that, something comes up, turn to your higher power, get to that meditation, get to that prayer, work through it. Don't go back to what you used to do instead and fuck off and act out. And then 12 is pivoting outward, right? Being a sponsor, just being a good fucking person, right? Living the principles that you just learned and living that new spiritual outlook one day at a time. It becomes a livelihood. Like I said, I like that word for it because, it's my life. I've said that before and people are kind of like, that sounds pretty grandiose, dude. I'm like, I don't mean it, but livelihood. It's just how I handle my day. I catch myself. I serve, I do service, and I don't mean I mean anybody, universal you, royal we, whatever, and help others in the rooms. When we share our stories in our meetings, the newbies love that shit when they hear some old fucker talking about, when I was, drunk and barfing and coming in the rooms, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, this is what happened. They're like, oh my God, right? It's like, there are two ways that people often respond. Oh my God, there, but for the grace of God, go I. So it's like this parable of like a warning, and not in a shaming way or whatever. You're like, holy shit, I don't want to do what you're sharing. And I came close. And that's a great lesson for me. And then the other one is like, oh dude, I want what he has or she has. Whoa, that's an amazing story. You came through that shit. So that's where 12 comes in. We learn, we share our stories, and that's where the fellowship and the growth keeps continuing, week in and week out, each meeting. So there's the 12.
Sean, will you read the text that you were going to read?
Oh, the acceptance? Sure. So this comes out of the big book, the Alcoholics Anonymous book. And this is again about surrender and, a lot of the principles you and I are both sharing, mindfulness. Let's see. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes.
Oh,
That just
I love it. That's so beautiful. That's amazing. That's like a
just
meditation.
wraps it all up.
It's
Yeah.
1000%. Yeah. I don't know if I can follow that, but I'm going to try.
Please.
So let's, I wanted to finish this episode with a really brief meditation for our listeners. So
All right.
first of all, Sean, thank you so much for sharing all of that and for taking us through the 12 steps. That was fantastic. I feel like, wouldn't the world be a better place if we were all in support groups, healing whatever everyone can heal. All right. That's
And that's where our conversation started. We're like, I think you can 12-step kind of anything.
You can. You can.
Yeah.
My goal is to, my vision is to have support groups for people who are healing any kind of healing, but specifically relationship breakups and meditation.
Let me share a book really quickly before you do the meditation. There is a book, A Gentle Path Through the 12 Steps by Patrick Carnes. He's kind of the sex addict guru. He's like the pioneer. In the 80s, he was talking about this shit. It's not just for sex addicts. It is a generalized workbook. I offer it to people all the time. And if you want to work yourself through, even if you don't have a sponsor, you work yourself through the workbook. It's 1 through 12, exactly what you and I are talking about, for whatever is bedeviling you, whatever the malady is.
Yeah. And although there's still a stigma with all of this, really everyone could benefit from healing something, right? We all need to heal. We would all be better people, better souls, more connected to ourselves and to the earth if we were always working on healing. Okay, so with that, we'll do a little meditation together. So wherever you are, just get comfortable. If you're driving, please don't do it. And just close your eyes. And for the next few minutes, there's nowhere else that you need to be. Just here, listening to the sound of my voice. And just take this breath and relax. And just follow my words. Simply notice your breathing. And breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Breathing in through the nose. And as you breathe out, let your tongue rest behind the tips of your teeth, allowing your jaw to relax. And as you breathe out through your nose or mouth, whatever feels most comfortable for you, just feel your neck and your shoulders soften. Your mind might begin to wander. You might begin to feel distracted by thoughts or sounds, and that's totally normal. If thoughts come up, just notice them, and instead of following the thoughts, simply return your focus to your breathing. Breathing in and out. Begin to pay attention to the way that your breath travels in through your nose, fills your lungs, and then just notice your breath as it travels back out of your body. Sometimes it helps to place a hand on your chest or your stomach. Notice how your body moves as you breathe in and out. Follow the natural rhythm of your breath. Now you might find that your breathing has slowed down a bit. Just follow it with its natural rhythm, breathing in and out. If your mind is wandering or you become distracted, don't get frustrated. Just notice the thoughts that come up and simply return your focus to your breathing. Every day as we navigate through life, we're guaranteed to encounter ups and downs, challenges and successes. There will constantly be moments and situations we can't control. But one thing we can control is our breathing. Taking just a few moments to breathe, like you've done just now, can help keep perspective. Let go of unnecessary mental noise and shine the light on your inner goodness. Take 3 more deep breaths. And then gently turn the corners of your mouth up into a smile and open your eyes. Mind is like water. When it's turbulent, it's difficult to see. When it's calm, everything becomes clear. And thank you for meditating with me.
Thank you for that, Amy.
Thank you, Sean. That was fantastic. I really appreciate all your wisdom on 12 steps.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation. Y'all are going to get sick of us doing podcasts together because I think we like to do these. We'll probably do even a part 2 to this, but we'll be back doing something else. But thanks for your, the mindfulness and that. I like the smile, the corners of your mouth at the end. I've never done that before. I'm going to offer that now. It makes sense, right? Just smile.
I know, right? Why not? And
that's good.
Hold it through the day. All right. We'll keep smiling. We'll check in again soon. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Amy.
I hope that episode was helpful. Hey, listen, if you want to share your singlehood journey, if you've gone somewhere and come back, if you have revelations and wisdom, please share your story. It's going to help other people. Nothing makes us feel more connected than hearing other people's stories. So just send me the audio of your story, and you can just record it directly from your phone and email it to theangrytherapist@gmail.com. Also, if you want our Single on Purpose newsletter, go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life. You will get tools and articles and other people's stories, and also Zoom links to private gathers. So if you want to join our community, go to singleonpurpose.life. Thank you for listening. Be well. We hope you tell a friend. Hey, before you go, I want to invite you to the Single on Purpose private community online. It's off of social media, no ads, no algorithms. We got forums, we got live groups, we got webinars, and we have social hangs. We also have offline in-person hangs happening soon. So check us out. Go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life, and I will see you inside.